And anticipation is building for this one. It is the second Medallia Superbike race of the weekend, and as you can see behind me, already things starting to get ready for our opening ceremonies. Just across my shoulder, you can see the Medallia girls, the MotoAmerica girls in position, and just behind them, a full grid. It is a hive of activity down here. All of the riders pretty much in position. I can see Jake Gagne down there, just stood in the middle of the front row of the grid. Alongside him, just on my left-hand side, is Cameron Bobie is sat on the bike right now looking super focused. Remember, of course, yesterday, unfortunately, going down, not through any fault of his own, just had nowhere to go out of turn 2. Bobier was fastest in the morning warm-up session. Can he get redemption today? He's got 2 chances, and of course, for the championship, Bobier knows he's got to start winning some races. He's got to take some points away from Jake Gagne. Obviously, completing the front row of the grid as well, Richie Escalante. Now, he had some issues of his own yesterday, had to start the restart from the back of the grid. Now, he made quite easy work of getting through the pack until he got up to sort of 5th or 6th position, and then obviously it was a little bit more difficult for him to move forward. Obviously, there was a red flag. We'll never know now whether he was able to make a move on PJ Jacobson or on Josh Herrin for that final podium spot. But Richie Escalante will be one to watch, as will Matthew Scholz and Cameron Peterson. Both of them going down yesterday, both of them looking to make amends for the issues that they had. It's going to be an exciting race, this. The qualifying, as we talked about, Greg and Roger, if you've been with us throughout the broadcast this weekend, we've had 7 or 8 guys covered by just over 3/4 of a second. So it is going to be exciting, and as you can see behind me, just a few moments away now until the start of this race. As I said, as well as all the fun and games off track and the serious business of commentating races, I also have the honor and the privilege of introducing our opening ceremonies. And with that in mind, let's get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WeatherTech Raceway. Welcome to Superbike Speedfest here in Monterey. And ladies and gentlemen, around the circuit, please be upstanding, because it is time to present the colors. And today they will be presented by the Defense Language Institute Center Color Guard. And ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the national anthem of the United States of America, which will be presented and sung by Angela Roach.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Into the heart of the grid, if we can. As I said, well done there for the national anthem. The crowd very appreciative of that. Richie Escalante just nipping off for a little toilet break. So we head down into the front row. As I said, 3 manufacturers on the front row of the grid. Richie Escalante's Suzuki right there with a clear view up into turn 1. Middle of the front row. Looks like he's also nipped off for a little toilet break. This is the defending champion of Jake Gagne, and the man of the moment, the guy that will start from pole position, Cameron Beaubier, the winner of the opening race of the series, Titleist Cycle BMW, looking to make amends. That is it. The grid is set. The crowds are ready. Jason Pridmore and Greg White. It is time for race 2 of Medallia Superbike. Take it away.
After the first lap, pandemonium on the peninsula rendered Beaubier and Peterson out.
Big crash!
Big crash! Gagne took full advantage to grab max points. The best of the rest, Herron, put his number 2 in a perfect position in the championship. But it's a new day, and the Cams are back at it. Can Gagne extend, or will Beaubier start a run of wins to restart his championship hope? We find out right now. It's time for the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship, our 5th round of 9 for 2023. And this round is MotoAmerica Superbike Speedfest at Monterey from WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, under a beautiful California sky. As we look at Cameron Beaubier on his way for our 2nd Medallia Superbike race of the weekend. That's race number 2 of 3 happening right here in beautiful Monterey. Well, welcome everyone to the broadcast, and welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, standing alongside 2-time AMA champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, turn 2 was a bit of a mess on the first start of yesterday's race, and it's really turned this championship on its head.
Yeah, when you look back, you think of Cam Beaubier, Road America Race 2, didn't get a finish. Race 1 at the Ridge had a slide off, and then with yesterday's incident, that's really 3 out of the last 4 races. It's allowed Jake Gagne to pull a little bit away in this championship. This was right off the start yesterday. Cam Peterson got a little bit loose out of turn 2. Beaubier was just on the outside of him, and that was definitely a problem for both those guys. You can see our front 2 rows were a little bit vacant yesterday because Richie Escalante also had a problem, even though he would come into play in this battle for 3rd between PJ Jacobsen and Matthew Scholz. Late in the race, though, Scholz, with 2 laps to go, while they were starting to catch up to Herron, he comes and crashes in Rainy Corner. You can see he got a ride back in from Herron. Scholz is back today. He's going to be okay, as are both Cams. But this guy, Greg, took advantage of that, like you said in the tease, gets those points and extended that lead.
Yeah, and it was just kind of a rough day for our front runners. You can see that Beaubier and Peterson crashed out. That's a DNF. And Escalante, Jay, you were talking about it. And that Scholz crash, man, when he hit the ground, I thought he hit his head pretty hard. But a red flag ended that race. And you know what, Jason? Looking at it, race 1 of 3, like anything can happen. But word is that I think the racers know at this point maybe turn 2 is going to be a little bit calmer. But the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. So it's time to welcome in the 3rd member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopa, who's down on the grid right now. Hey, Hannah.
Greg, it's certainly much warmer this time of day than it was yesterday, so great conditions for racing. This guy, Cameron Peterson, got the best start of the season, but unfortunately wasn't able to capitalize on that throughout the race. Cam, how are you feeling after that event, and kind of take us through that crash?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Like you said, got the start of my life yesterday, so going to try to do the same today. But yeah, like the boys said, maybe be a little bit more calm going into turn 2. But yeah, it was really weird yesterday. Didn't feel like I did anything wrong. Just kind of touched the paint on the inside a little bit, and yeah, unfortunately washed the front, and you know, unfortunately messed up Cam's race as well. So yeah, I'm just looking to go have some fun on my motorcycle, chase these boys down, and get on the podium for the team and for myself, and start having some fun again.
Best of luck out there, Cam. I'm always so impressed with such his sunny disposition and ability to move forward. Another racer who has another shot at it today is Richie Escalante, and Richie didn't get to take advantage of this front row start yesterday due to unforeseen circumstances. How crucial is it for you to be able to have this starting position for not 1 but 2 more chances today?
Yes, for sure, starting the first round is very important. Yesterday I missed the exit, so I start in the last. So I hope to start in the same like yesterday in the last position to stay up front. But yeah, yesterday is in the past, today is new day. I live the present, so I'm ready for try to do my best today.
Richie Escalante looking to crack into that top 3, guys.
He's really starting to come into his own, Jason, and it's so impressive to watch Richie Escalante getting it done. But it's WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. The famed corkscrew is here, as well as just dozens of famous racers that came to watch this. Jay, take us for a little lap around this place.
Fast up over turn 1, Greg, and it's these bikes are going up over that thing wide open and moving around a lot as they break down in for turn 2. Turns 3 and 4 head off into turn 5, up that big steep hill out of turn 6, and we've had some people walk the track this week that said they had no idea it was as steep as it is. It's really steep up to the corkscrew. A lot of fans up on the hill today, down through Rainy Corner into turn 10. And then, you know, we saw a lot of action in turn 11 yesterday, and hopefully we see some more there today on the run to the checkered flag.
This racetrack is a natural road course that we love to come to. How about this guy? He's leading the championship, Jake Gagne. He's trying to get it done again and extend that points lead. We are 5 minutes away from a race start. Stay with us.
Well, Roger, obviously Jake doesn't like to win the way he did with 2 of his main competitors being out in the first corner, but when you're thinking about a championship, you have to pounce on any opportunity that is given to you. He did that immensely well. He came in with a 23-point margin in the championship. It's now up to 39. Yeah, he would have liked to have had the battle and all that, but it is points time for him, and he did exactly what he had to do. And that's the thing, you know, you just got to capitalize on the opportunities there, and you know, that's part of going for a championship, is putting yourself in those good spots. And for Cameron Beaubier yesterday was you know, was the wrong place, wrong time, and Jake collected all the points. And you know, even though Cam was out of that race, if you go back and look at Cam Beaubier out of the race, go back and look at Jake Gagne's race pace, those mid-23s for the whole race, even by himself. That was an impressive race pace that I don't think we've seen in practice. No, that's absolutely right. And I think, you know, we've talked about it. He when he's practicing literally for the race, and he goes out hard and fast a lot, and it pays off. And I think in that race, he knew he'd been gifted a little bit, but he still wanted to know what he had in his back pocket for today's races. There's a look at Matthew Scholz, arguably the toughest off of the ones we saw in that race yesterday. You know, he's got to dig deep and bounce back here. Yeah, it was a big crash yesterday. Him getting out, he passed all the medical tests, which led him, you know, with MotoAmerica, you got to go through. When you have a big crash like that, you got to make sure you're okay, and he's ready to go, and I think he wants to make a good race out of it. You know, he's been fast all week. He's qualified 5th. Really big crash yesterday, but he kind of knows where his weak areas were because it was toward the end of the race, and he can make some changes. And going into today, and there's nothing better when you have a bad race, come out and have one so soon and try to do better. Have that short memory that sometimes you need to have. And he certainly has shown speed. Look at him pounding the tank there, going, I'm ready for this. I want this, as are all these guys. This is going to be epic, folks. And Cameron Beaubier, not that he doesn't ride hard all the time, but now he may have to find literally another gear in terms of pursuing this championship. It is race 2 of a triple header for Medallia Superbikes here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. It is coming up next.
Medallia Superbike coverage is brought to you by Medallia, the pioneer in customer and employee experience. By Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by Geico Motorcycle. Visit geico.com to see how easy covering your ride can be.
This is a beautiful day for racing motorcycles. It's WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, this famed race course, repaved, causing all kinds of ruckus for Dunlop and their tires, and they have really been able to sort it out. Jason, let's take a look at the starting grid for this race, and it's going to be Cameron Beaubier, who's going to sit on pole, Jake Gagne and Richie Escalante occupying the front row.
Yep, then we have Cam Peterson, Matthew Scholz, and Josh Herron starting there on row 2. PJ Jacobson, Corey Alexander, and Brandon Posh did a great job yesterday to Brandon Posh. Bobby Fong, Hayden Gillum, and Ashton Yates. Max Flinders, Da Silva, Nolan Lampkin, and Danilo Lewis. Saw him get out a little bit late. You saw him come out of pit lane there, so I don't think Danilo made the siding lap. Not a big deal. he'll be gridding up back there and ready to go.
So the big news, of course, coming here beginning of the week was, what is this surface going to do? And there's a lot of questions about that. But let's check in with Hannah, who's got a last-minute report. What's up, Hannah?
Looking to make better of his starting position from pole today is Cameron Beaubier. After some unforeseen circumstances that were beyond his control yesterday, he was not able to finish the race. So definitely looking forward to 2 opportunities today. When I checked in with him just to see how he was feeling physically, he said, you know, he's pretty sore above his left hip and he can certainly feel it on the motorcycle at times. But if we know anything about Cameron Beaubier, is that he will fight to the finish, and it's certainly easier for him to do so with the support of all of his friends and family here this weekend, because this is his home race.
Yeah, and of course his wife and his new son Brody are here as well, cheering him on. Now for Beaubier, Jason, the big news, of course, was that a race ago they got one of the world Superbike spec frames. As this Tytler Cycles BMW is supported by the factory in Germany. That frame was not able to be ridden on, so he's got the original frame he started the season on, and he was still fastest in warm-up this morning. Medallia Superbike race number 2. Clutches are out and we're going. A 20-lap affair scheduled for this one. And up the inside goes the number 1 plate. Cameron Beaubier with a better start than he had yesterday. He's going to try to go up the inside. So there goes the number 6, but he's going to go wide, and it looks like Gagne sneaks up underneath. And how about the start from the number 11 of Matthew Schultz on his Westby Racing Yamaha? For a moment, he put himself into 2nd spot.
Cam Peterson was up there for a moment as well, but got kind of shuffled back to 5th as PJ Jacobson went underneath him also. But Beaubier takes a shot early down into turn 2, runs a little bit wide. Gagne turns it back up underneath him. A lot better start from everybody than we saw yesterday. So now we're going to see how many of these guys can sustain the pressure and the pace that the 2 at the front are going to be running.
Sun is shining, a lot of heat in the track, which is always good. And the wind is blowing, but not quite as chilly as it was yesterday. To the top of the corkscrew goes the number 1 and the number 6.
PJ Jacobson had actually gotten by Matthew Schultz, and Matthew Schultz returned the favor as they entered the corkscrew. You'll see the gold number 11 still back there in 3rd, but Gagne and Beaubier are starting to disappear from that battle just behind them.
And Josh Herron slotted back there in 6th place as well. He's our 3rd rider in this championship battle with these 2. Onto the front straightaway we go for the first time. Now you're going to see the BMW open up and grab as much air as he can into that engine as they go down into turn number 2. And boy, that Yamaha looked like it came off the corner really well, Jason.
It did, but he's going to run wide this time. Beaubier is kind of trying to sneak up on the inside of Gagne to return that favor that we saw a little minute ago at the start. Gagne is able to square it up, get it turned, get off of turn 2. Now, Greg, in watching the practices on Friday, you called it. That BMW was coming off the corners, and especially in these flat turns here out of turn 3 and turn 4, Beaubier would get that bike up off the edge of the tire and really gain a lot of time. Look how much tighter he can go in. I noticed him doing that in turn 11, does the same thing in turn 5. Also, you're talking about a little bit different frame. It might take, even though they had a morning warm-up, it's a little cooler, it might take a few laps for Beaubier to just really get the feel of what this frame is, even though I'm sure he's been on this frame in the past.
Yeah, he has been on this frame in the past, and the frame, as they go through the corkscrew from our overhead shots, you can see the acceleration. Now, Jay, the biggest thing about the fresh and lean progressive Yamaha that Jake Gagne is riding is the team really had a look at how much grip there is being generated from this new surface in the rear tire. And Jake Gagne likes to spin the tire, he likes to rotate the bike through the corner, and he likes to lift it up on the edge of the tire just like that.
Yep.
And the way that the bike was on Friday, there was too much grip for him to do that. So they've really worked on actually taking away some of the grip on this Yamaha R1 to allow Jake Gagne to ride the bike more to his riding style.
Yeah, and I think that for Jake, that's a big thing. And as this track has come into play and as it's gotten better over the weekend, that's where the setup changes and some of the things that they're going to do on these bikes are going to make these guys be able to ride the way they want to ride. Hannah?
Jason, you're exactly right. I talked to them about the setup, and he said they made some small changes to engine braking in order for him to have a little bit more longevity on those tires toward the end of the race, as Cameron Beaubier is looking to go up the inside here maybe. But for Jake, you know, it was really important to him today, knowing that Beaubier and some of the others at the front would be back in the race, for him to be able to push harder on those tires toward the end of the race. So really, that's the name of the game for him. With 17 laps to go, we'll have to see how this plays out.
You know, and Hannah, the hardest thing about the race for both Cam Peterson and Cam Beaubier yesterday is they didn't get those laps under their belt. so they don't have the data to come back to their team, and it really wouldn't have mattered anyways now for Beaubier because he's on a completely different frame. You saw that shot he took, Greg, there going into turn 5. That was actually really probably a lot closer than Beaubier wanted, but that is going to be the first little shot that he's going to think about taking when they come out of turn 4. I mentioned how well that BMW accelerates out of the flat corners. Turn 5 could be the spot that it's going to happen because he drives out of turn 3 and 4 so well.
Boy, coming out of turn 11 onto the front straightaway, there's definitely a drive advantage this early in the race for the number 1 plate of Gagne on that fresh and lean progressive Yamaha. But then it's later down the straightaway where you really see the BMW start to make ground. So, Jay, the question right now, as Gagne controls the pace, a 1:23.771 from Gagne last time by the stripe. So pretty quick. Yesterday, the fast lap was a 23.4 when Gagne was out by himself just pushing. But Beaubier is definitely pushing Jake Gagne at the moment. But the question is, does Cam Beaubier want to lead at this point?
I think he does. I think Cam wants to lead the race, and I think he wants to apply that pressure. I thought it was pretty impressive at the Ridge how the number 6, he's going to have a shot up here at the corkscrew, gets a little bit out of shape as he crested over the top of the hill, and that's going to prevent him from trying to go down the inside. He had a notion there, though. That drive he got out of turn 6 was good, and you saw that bike just start to wheelie as he crested the top of the hill. And when he put that bike down, it got into a little bit of a tank slapper, and he wasn't able to complete that pass. But he's already starting to line up and take shots at Gagne. So, you know, I'm still thinking it's going to be a turn 5 or maybe now even the corkscrew. So we'll see how that plans out.
Yeah, the different riding styles between these two. The number 1, Gagne, likes to carry a little bit less speed through the corner and really get the bike upright on the meat of the tire and drive out, where Beaubier likes a little bit more front end feel, a little bit more corner speed. So this is actually really good for Gagne because he's able to control what Beaubier is doing and dictate the lines that Beaubier is having to take.
Yeah, he's a little bit closer this lap than he was the lap prior, Greg, and you can see he's closing up on the back. He's going to try to run it through here. A little bit wider entry there for Beaubier. Let's see if he can get the drive out. Gagne was a little bit more committed to the apex, but look at Beaubier. He's trying to drive up there. And again, I'm just seeing tiny little, I wouldn't call them mistakes. They're little test runs that he's making right now, and he's putting himself in little different places on the track than Gagne, kind of feeling things out, trying to make a plan for where he wants to make this happen. Again, he's close as they come up out of turn 6. Gagne moves over to the left, so it's going to be harder for Beaubier to go down the right side there. So he must have felt it the last lap.
Yeah, he must have. So early on in this race for Gagne, using outstanding racecraft to really mess with Beaubier's plans. And of course, if you're new to motorcycle road racing, you'll notice there's no rearview mirrors on these things. This is all about race feel and understanding and using the sound around you too, Jay, to feel what's going on.
Don't you just kind of feel that Beaubier's got an extra 2 or 3 tenths in his belt buckle waiting to be unleashed there? Because it just seems like at these 23.7s, 23.8s, 23.9s, I just feel like if Beaubier gets by, he's going to drop down to like a 23.4 or quicker. So again, super close as they go into turn 2. I think what he wants to try to do is be as close to that number 1 Yamaha as he can be when he exits turn 4, and then try to slingshot by down that short straightaway into 5.
Boy, coming out of the front straightaway, I saw Gagne. It looked like he kind of, I don't know, nodded his head a little bit like something was going on, but it might just be that Gagne is so active on the motorcycle with his body. He uses a ton of leg, ton of body to manipulate the direction of this motorcycle. But these two former teammates getting after it. Of course, the last time they were teammates, Cameron Beaubier won the national championship, and then he was off to Moto2.
Another good run here. So he's getting that run, but he just can't quite do anything just yet with it. And I think Gagne kind of felt that a couple laps ago, and I think that right now Gagne's a little defensive up at the top, and their lines are so similar as they come down into turn 9, Hannah.
It's a bit early to be looking at points, and we know that Jake Gagne doesn't necessarily keep his eyes on the standings, but he said he understands he has a considerable lead right now. He's pretty comfortable, and he's not looking to really force the issue. He's in it for the long haul, so finishing the race is the most important thing for him. He wants to be smooth, he wants to be patient, and he's willing to fight for this win. If he thinks he got it, he's going to do everything he can to make it happen, but he's just trying to get out of here clean.
Well, Hannah, in years past, the last Beaubier's back now, because otherwise we'd see Gagne with almost a 5-second lead over everybody else. So he's getting pushed, just gets pushed, Greg, to the fastest lap of the race at 23.700. And, Beaubier is just able to roll right along with him so far.
A 39-point lead between Jake Gagne and Josh Herrin. And then it's all 48 all the way back. It's 25 points for a win in MotoAmerica, 20 points for second, 16 for third. And so it's a 5 points from first to second. Left part of your screen, Jay, looks like Schultz went wide.
Yeah, Schultz just got down into turn 2 a little deep. Herrin's there to take advantage of it. You can see PJ Jacobson's there, Escalante's there. In fact, there's quite the train back there for third to about 10th place Corey Alexander. So about 4 seconds is separating all that group. So they're all together. We're locked in on this battle at the front right now, though.
Yeah, we're kind of waiting to see when Cameron Beaubier is going to make his move and where he's going to make the move. Because not only is it about just getting by Jake Gagne, but it's also, you have to think, where can I get by him where he can't fight back immediately?
Yeah, and I think Laguna offers you a lot of places. You got to get a little bit creative here. Bikes work better in other spots. Bikes can work different in spots and have advantages and disadvantages. So the thing is what I'm noticing right now, I'm actually really impressed with how well that attack bike is getting out of turn 11 and down that front straightaway. It seems places where the BMW can roll through these kind of corners here in turn 4 and then turn 6, BMW's a little bit better, but you can see Gagne right now, this is as big of a gap as we've seen. Obviously it's nothing, but it is as big a gap as we've seen.
Just impressive what they've been able to do with the anti-squat. I'm not going to get into too much details, Jay, but in talking to the crew about the Fresh and Lean Progressive Yamaha team, there's a bunch of numbers that go into what's called anti-squat, and normally on a track with no traction, it needs a lot more, but there's so much grip here that they've taken some out, and it's really a different riding motorcycle today than it was yesterday for Jake Gagne. And the biggest thing is, instead of him trying to learn how to ride this motorcycle to this racetrack, his team has been able to give him a motorcycle, and it looks like Jake Gagne. It's just get to mid-corner, slow it down a little bit, and then stand it up on the meat of the tire and really drive out. And it's working for him here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
I think also, too, Gagne made a big stride in his riding about a year and a half ago. Started all the controls, everything he was doing, were just getting a little bit smoother. Seemed in the last couple of races, I started seeing a little bit of some of Jake's old things come into play, some of his old habits. Right now, he looks actually really comfortable to me at the front. Looks very smooth in what the things that he's doing. You get a look here at Escalante now going past Matthew Schultz on the front straightaway. So Escalante moves himself up into 4th, and he's going to continue on to chase Josh Herrin. But Gagne looks super relaxed to me right now and looks very comfortable entering these turns. And in the past, we've seen that bike moving a lot underneath him. And I'm not seeing that as much right now.
So Gagne continues to lead. Cameron Beaubier on the Tytler Cycles BMW M1000RR. And then Josh Herrin, who is on a 5-podium streak, has worked himself into 3rd. Rich Escalante into 4th over Matthew Schultz, PJ Jacobson, Cam Peterson, Brandon Posh, and his debut weekend on the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki Factory Suzuki GSX-R 1000 in 8th place. Corey Alexander. Bobby Fong has a 2-second penalty for track limits. He's in 10th place. So on the track, he's ahead of Corey Alexander, but because he's got a 2-second penalty on the scoring pylon on the left part of your screen, Bobby Fong in 10th spot. Onto the front straightaway we go. After this, Jason, it's going to be 11 laps to go. So we're nearing the halfway point of this race, which is the halfway point in the season. This is our 10th race of 20 for Medallia Superbike. So after this race, we start to get over the hump. And as Hannah talked about points early on, that's when people are really going to start looking at points. Here's Schultz having an issue.
Turn 2 again. So he gets it out there, and you see that Matthew Schultz has slid down the board there to 7th. So Peterson and Jacobson were able to take advantage of that. Matthew's making it a little bit easy for those guys to get by him, as we've seen him run wide in turn 2 a couple times. So maybe he's got a little bit of a brake issue or whatever down at the bottom of that. But like you said, Greg, we're about halfway done. Next time through, we'll be about halfway done with this race. The interesting thing about Laguna Seca that you don't see at a lot of the other racetracks. The Ridge comes to mind as another one of them, but Look at right there. See how they get back to the middle of the seat? You're back to the middle of the seat for such a small period of time at Laguna Seca. You're always working here. You're on one side of the bike or the other all the way. So for those at home watching on the TV, look at how active they are with their lower bodies, getting themselves from one direction to the other. So pretty much from all the way down from the corkscrew all the way down to 11, as Bobby Fong has tossed the number 51 R1 down the road, looking to see what that looks like turn 6 possibly. So, but like right here again, you're going to see them kind of get back to the middle of the seat. Before they get to this bridge, they'll already start to move their lower bodies off to the left. Here's that battle for third. Escalante all over the back now of Josh Herron.
So there is the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati Panigale V4R against the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki of Richie Escalante. And Jay, Herron's been on a great run. Here's a look at Fong on his Wrench Motorcycles R1.
It's just on the exit of turn 6 there, Greg. So
and the flip.
Everything flips, of course, and that's a bummer. I think for Escalante, when we start looking at even the tire charts that we saw, he's on a different he's on a different front and a different rear tire. So for Escalante, maybe it'll be a better race for longevity-wise, and he can stay on the back of Herron.
Hannah?
As far as longevity is concerned, that's something that Josh Herron's team was looking at as well. The only real major change that they made to the bike from yesterday to today was a small chassis change to help with tire life. And you know, Josh Herron's goal, obviously he wants to get another win. He wants to stay closer to those guys out front, but ultimately being consistent has really made a huge difference for him in the points race. What I thought was really interesting in talking to the team is that now that the Supersport side of the tent is done for the weekend, everyone has come together to work toward the Superbike program, and they're just like one big family over there.
Yeah, and that's really important and nice to have those extra resources. Back up front we go. Jake Gagne and Cameron Beaubier still getting after it. 123.9s for the pair. 124.2, 124.3 for the duo behind them of Herron and Escalante. So these two still continuously pulling away from the third place battle. But Jay, you just got to look at this and go, okay, I mean, we have 8.5 laps to go. What is Cameron Beaubier going to do right now?
Well, right now it looks like he's taking a shot down into turn 5
again.
It? He keeps testing it. He keeps testing it, and he's almost at that point where he's got to make the decision to continue to pull the lever on more. Problem with that is you're tipping the bike in there, especially a little bit offline. We've seen some guys lose the front there. He's got to make that decision of, do I just let go of the lever and go past, or do I continue to squeeze the lever on? So that's 2 times now I've seen down into turn 5 where it's probably got a little bit closer than Cameron would like, and it's that gray area that gets riders in trouble, and Cam's going to make that decision sooner or later to just either let go of that lever or drive it in there just a tiny bit more. But we saw him run down Gagne at the ridge from some 2.5 seconds back, 3 seconds back, only to tip over in that chicane that day. The next day was kind of the same. He waits till about 4 or 5 laps from the end of these races to make his move, and then he tries to lay down a couple fast laps to where Gagne can't do anything with him.
It's Gagne's crew chief on the left. Just taking a look at the board, and of course, when his rider goes by, Jake Gagne, Fresh and Lean Progressive Yamaha, your national champion for the last 2 seasons, racing against Cameron Beaubier. And for Cameron Beaubier, he's the national champion in Medallia Superbike in 2015, 16, 18, 19, and 20. He's got 5 of them. So since the beginning of MotoAmerica in 2015, you're looking at 7 Medallia Superbike championships between these two. And Gagne looks, Jay, it's just coming off a couple of those corners where he's able to just put a gap in.
It looks good,
and
yeah.
for the BMW, there's not enough racetrack to the next corner.
That's right.
To really take advantage of the motor that is underneath Cameron Beaubier.
Yeah, well, Jake is getting through turns 3 and 4 very well as well. He goes into turn 4 a little bit tighter, so he gets down to the apex a little sooner, gets out to the exit a little bit quicker, and I think it's just enough, Greg. That little tiny gap he pulls there is just enough to make it to where Cam can't get close enough to him for turn 5 as they come through turn 10 there down to 11. Again, Beaubier very close, but here's another place I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing out of this Progressive Insurance Attack, fresh and lean Yamaha of Gagne. He's able to get out of 11 just well enough again where Beaubier can't do anything before they get up over the top of turn 1. I still believe that the place that's got to happen for Beaubier is turn 5, but he's almost got to be right on the rear wheel as they tip into 4. He has to be on the rear wheel of Gagne as they tip in there.
Even though he's a little sore, is the number 6 of Beaubier from yesterday's crash. You have to think that when he decides to make the lunge, he's just got to hold his breath, grit his teeth.
Cam just got out of turn 3 a little bit wider than I think he wanted to. He got out to that curbing a lot quicker than I have seen him do in the past. I think he also feels that he's got to be closer through 4. Looked like he was just a little impatient on the throttle getting out of 3, and it put him almost out on the curbing by where the dirt is. So,
yeah, but Jay, the thing that I'm looking at too is he lost a little bit of that time, but he's not been able to make it up as quickly as I thought he would.
Yeah.
And that's a sign to say, okay, what does Beaubier have in mind? What is Gagne? So Gagne's right now circulating in the 23.9 range.
Another spot where Beaubier is really good. I mean, going down into turn 10 right now, we haven't seen that many passes as we normally would in all of our races, getting down into turn 10, going up underneath the riders, because Beaubier is really good through Rainy Corner and down that hill.
So as we're watching these two, we also can see the race going on behind us. In third, fourth, and fifth position, Josh Herron set the fastest Sector 1 split time the last lap by, and his personal best time. So Herron just goes fastest lap of the race behind
Amazing.
these two.
Wow.
At a 23.4, and that's with 6 laps to go. But Richie Escalante did his personal best lap time at a 1:23.835 right behind Herron. All the while Cameron Peterson, back in 5th place, set the third sector number 3 fastest time. So there he is, just going fastest lap of the race. Boy, man, he is really dug deep, and I know that he is still sore from his crash at the Ridge a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, what would a completely healthy Josh Herron be doing right now? He opened that gap up to Escalante to a second on that last lap, running that 23.4 second lap time. Beaubier's close again, Greg, but look, Gagne goes to the left side. It's really hard, even if you got to run on a guy, to go down the outside of them before you get to the corkscrew. So Gagne is just using a lot of good racecraft, but again, this is where Beaubier is a little bit better. I feel like the BMW rolls through the middle of this a little bit better. He uses a little bit more exit.
There he goes. No.
I mean, that could be another spot. Now he's starting to see these laps run down, like 6 laps to go. He's seeing those lap counts go down. He's kind of tested 3 or 4 different spots, and now it almost looks like he's getting not frantic, but he's starting to get a little bit like, I got to make something happen here. And here he goes up underneath turn 1.
There's the pass for the lead. So Beaubier finally gets it done. Is Gagne going to fight back down at the bottom of the hill? No. Beaubier is very deep down there. Can he get it back in this double apex turn 2? He does. So now we're going to see what speed Cameron Beaubier has, as Josh Herron went by behind him 5.9 seconds and goes fastest lap again at a 1:23.382. You can see at the left part of your screen. So Herron shredding this racetrack right now, but is it too little too late?
Yeah, and we haven't been able to see Beaubier do this up the front straightaway the whole race, and it almost looked too easy. He had that pass done by the time they got to the top of turn 1, and he hadn't really been close enough to do that for the whole race.
And of course, a good time to do it, Jay, because knowing what happens sometimes in these races with race stoppages, there's a certain percentage that you have to go.
You're right, yeah.
Right? If
absolutely.
this race red flags and we go the distance here, this race could end. So Beaubier had to make this pass during this time and not do a last lap pass just in case.
But look at the gap again. It's pretty much done. Like, Beaubier's just pulled the pin, and we don't have any red sectors, so it's not like we're seeing a lap time that's going to be quicker than the 23.3 that the Ducati that you saw just out of your picture there coming through turn 10. Josh Herron is on a tear right now. He's 5.9 seconds back. These guys run 23.5, so Beaubier runs his quickest personal lap of the race, and it's almost 1 full second. The only other guy in the 23s right now, well, there's 2 other guys, Josh Herron and Richie Escalante. 23.5 again for Herron, but Beaubier has pulled the pin and he's on his way.
So Cameron Beaubier made the decision that it was time to go, and now, having studied Jake Gagne the whole time, and here's a look at what's happened in the last 4 races. You can see total points accumulation, 86 points for Gagne, 34 for Cameron Beaubier, so this will be a big boost. However, if it ended now, or it ends like this in 4 or 3.5 laps, Jake Gagne would only lose 5 points to Cameron Beaubier, who's third in the championship. But we might see Beaubier claw his way back up into second spot. Not quite. So Cameron Beaubier is 9 points behind Josh Herrin currently in this championship. And Beaubier would make up that 9 points.
What a job done by Josh Herrin right now. He's kind of broke the will of Escalante there with these lap times he's put in. And I mean, Richie Escalante still in the 23s himself. He went 23.7 this last lap by. So Escalante continues to rip the laps, but Herrin's just a little bit better. We're getting word PJ Jacobson pulled into the pits also, Greg.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Tytler's Cycles Racing rider, he is in the pits this late in the race. Can't imagine he's going back out. Beaubier goes fastest lap of the race at a 23.3. That's with 3 laps to go. So Beaubier really trying to make sure that Gagne doesn't have an opportunity, and really in his rhythm right now is the number 6. So a 23.308 for Cameron Beaubier. That is incredibly fast, Jason.
Yeah, and when you look at it, the guy behind him was still in the 23s also. Gagne goes 23.9. But I just don't think he's got what he really needs. And I kind of had the feeling that Beaubier would get down into those low 23s once he got past Gagne, but I thought that would happen earlier in the race.
And Jason, the incredible thing is with all the chatter about tires, about Dunlop having to rush to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca from Buffalo, New York, and get here to test on Tuesday, another test on Thursday. And with the sun out and the amount of rubber being laid on the track with the variety of classes we have here in MotoAmerica, for Cameron Beaubier to go out with 3 laps to go and throw down a 23.308 is absolutely astonishing. Gagne now 2.16 seconds behind. And look, if Gagne slows down too much, he might come under fire from Herrin, who's only about 2 seconds behind in third spot. So across the line again comes Beaubier. He goes 23.4. The consistency is incredible. And Jay with that lap of 23.308. That was only 0.2 of a second, a little less than that, off of his lap record Cameron Beaubier set in 2020 in race number 3 here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Not bad with this freshly paved racetrack. Can you imagine how speeds are going to be when we come back here next year or even the year after, when this track has settled in to being what it can be? So Cameron Beaubier leads the way. 2.2 over Gagne. It's now settled 4 seconds back to Herrin. Escalante 1.4 back from Herrin. Cam Peterson in 5th, Schultz in 6th, Brandon Posh up to 7th, and Corey Alexander rounding out your top 8 with Hayden Gillum on the Disrupt Racing number 69. Max Flinders in the top 10 again, ahead of Ashton Yates, De Silva, and Nolan Lampkin.
And then you know what a good thing, what a good feeling for this whole Tytler's Racing team, Greg, to be able to have to come in, replace the frame, put something a little bit different in. You know, they probably saw that bike yesterday and were bummed, and the team went to work. Is he going to get the white flag this time by? But it just shows how strong that Tytler's team is to be able to make their rider just as comfortable as he was on a frame that they thought might be superior to the one he's on.
And you know, talking to Cameron yesterday about that World Superbike frame that they got and were able to put in at the Ridge, a great report on roadracingworld.com they had about that frame, the one that he's not on. And talking to Cameron about it, he said, you know, there are some things, it's always a trade-off, Jason. Some things of the frame he's on now are better than the other frame, but it was mid-corner of the frame that he's not on, the World Superbike spec frame, that he likes so much. So he's able to ride around it and figure out how to go about as fast as you can go on this racetrack. In our second Medallia Superbike race of the weekend, as after this, they get about a 2-hour break and they got to get after it again in Medallia Superbike race number 3. Our final lap is Cameron Beaubier on the Tytler Cycles BMW M1000RR, goes through the corkscrew, down the hill towards Rainy Corner. He'll have turn 10 and 11 and onto the front straightaway. And for Jake Gagne, the number 1 plate, he did everything he can to control this pace at the front. He'll only lose 5 points to Beaubier, who should be second in the championship, tied with Josh Herrin. Here we go. Cameron Beaubier in his home state of California, under the sunshine, takes the checkered flag and the win in Medallia Superbike race number 2. Gagne comes across the stripe, 2.4 seconds adrift. Josh Herrin in the books, Richie Escalante as well. So that'll be your 1, 2, 3, 4. Beaubier, Gagne, Herrin, Escalante. Cameron Peterson in 5th. Matthew Skoltz, Brandon Posh, and Corey Alexander, your top 8.
Man, you got to wonder if, going back, we'll have to look at it, but Herrin must have just maybe got a bad start and had to get through some people, but he had some pace, Greg. The last sort of 7 laps, Herrin runs 23s. You also got to think, had Beaubier got to the front sooner, would he have dropped into those 23 3s or 2s or better a little bit earlier?
Yeah, I can't wait to see what race 3 is going to be like. But before that, we'll be back here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca to talk to Cameron Beaubier.
Well, we talked about it before the race started, Roger. After the off, nothing he could do about it, wrong spot, wrong time, off for Cameron Beaubier. In terms of the championship, he was going to need to find another gear maybe. He found it.
He found it, and just the incredible pace that even him and Gagne had. We was watching the lap times. The first 15 laps, they was all within 23.6, 23.9 every lap. And for Gagne, that's hard to do, to not make a mistake when you're leading a race like that. And for 15 laps, your pit board says +0. But, Beaubier just had a couple extra tenths there toward the end of the race, and was, it just kind of looked like Cam was sitting there and found his spot. And, when he attacked, he put his head down and kind of broke that gap and cruised in.
I wonder if there was a little bit of Jake saying, look, clearly I don't have the pace to run with him today. I'm not going to push so hard that I'm going to risk the points lead. I'm going to take second, get those points. That's how you win championships. You got to accept reality every once in a while. And today, Beaubier just had the speed. And
also for Jake, this track, we've talked about it all week with the new pavement, is a little bit unpredictable.
Yeah.
If you're could have run, we know that front tires are, getting a lot of wear and things like that. So was he starting to push the front? And we've seen in previous races this weekend some guys toward the end slowing down, losing a little front end grip. So it could have been anything, but still second place, 20 points, still is going to be a pretty big lead. And the big picture for him is to win that title. And he keeps doing what he did today, just being smart. He's going to be there at the end.
Absolutely. Josh Herrin, the last third of the race, was absolutely ignited with that series of fast laps. Got it down to almost just 3 seconds off of Gagne at the end of it. Richie Escalante battling Herrin for third there for a little bit. Josh able to squeeze the trigger and open it up just a little bit. So another great run for Richie.
And both those two guys was running the leader's pace after about lap 10. So if they can get a good start and they can get in that rhythm they had toward the end of the race early, I think they can go with them. But, the thing is, can Cam Beaubier do the low 23s? Yeah. I don't know if those guys have that. Josh Herrin obviously did a 23.3, so he can do it. But, can you do it for 20 laps if Beaubier gets a good start? And we've been talking a lot about Brandon Posh, and he was doing 24s that whole race. Yesterday, the last half of the Superbike race, he was in the 25s. So he's making big strides being consistent as well.
Yeah, his best lap at 24.2, his last lap at 24.4. So consistent low 24s for Brandon Posh. That's coming together for him as well.
Medallia Superbike coverage is brought to you by Medallia, the pioneer in customer and employee experience. By Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by Geico Motorcycle. Visit geico.com to see how easy covering your ride can be.
I think that's something called what do you call that, golf course? It's no racetrack, that's for sure. As Cameron Beaubier comes in to celebrate with his crew. Oh, he wants a hug. Of course he wants a hug. Guy deserves a hug after that race. What an incredible performance from Cameron Beaubier in his home track. Let's take a look at those results. It is 2.4 seconds, Pridmore, but that really doesn't tell the tale of this race. Herrin in third spot, Escalante, Peterson, Skoltz, Posh, Corey Alexander, and Hayden Gillum. So I like that. Skoltz Posh and Alexander, they were really close. But it's all about Cameron Beaubier right now, so Hannah's with him.
Cameron Beaubier back on the top of the box, and what a race it was. Cam, waiting on Jake for quite a while there. Where were you looking for the opportunity to make your move, and what gave you the confidence to do it and really make it stick, because you set sail?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Jake was putting up a really good pace at the beginning, and I had a couple spots I felt like I was a little better, and same for him. He was a little better than me in a couple spots too. It was really tough to get around him. I feel like they made an improvement on their braking stability, because he was really good on the brakes today. So I was sniffing. I had a couple moments where I almost ran into the back of him, but yeah, it was. Amazing race. I was able to get by him and put my head down and click off some low 23s, which I was pretty happy with. And man, big thanks to the Tyler's guys. They were up all night last night rebuilding this thing. This is actually my backup bike. We destroyed a lot of stuff in the crash yesterday, so massive thank you to them. And yeah, we'll try to go get them this afternoon. And massive thanks for all my family and friends for coming out. It's just special being back at this place. Yeah.
You can hear that crowd's definitely excited for you. Speaking of family and friends, your newborn son Brody, just 6 weeks old. It's his first race weekend. What does it mean to you to be able to win with him in attendance?
It's super special, yeah. Have a little Brody and Shelby here. Shelby hasn't been to a race all year, so yeah, it's just a special weekend. And
congratulations, Cameron Beaubier. Second place today, Jake Gagne. Jake, Cam really put the pressure on you there. It was certainly an intense race. Take us through it.
Yeah, I got off to a good start. Cam threw it into one, and I kind of got back underneath him, and just tried to click off some consistent laps. I could hear him behind me the whole time. I knew there was a couple times I thought he was going up the inside, and kind of felt like the Ridge a few weeks ago. You know, I felt like he had some pace, and he was trying to find the right moment, so I was just trying not to make a mistake. And then, yeah, he came by me up over one, actually, and man, he put his head down and had pulled a good gap in a lap or so. So congrats to the team and Cameron. They're riding awesome. The bike's working good, and we got a work cut out for us this afternoon to try to see if we can improve a couple things. But it was a fun race, man, and I'm stoked to be here, and all the fans. Hopefully we can put on another good show this afternoon. Thanks to Freshly Intact Performance, Yamaha, Rye Helmets, Alpine Stars, my family and friends here, and give it another go this afternoon.
Thanks, Jake. Congratulations. And back on the podium, keeping his podium streak alive, is Josh Herron. Josh, what has allowed you to be so consistent these last couple of rounds?
Man, just trying not to give up. I mean, we definitely didn't get as good of a start as we did yesterday, so it took a long time to get through everybody, and those guys had a pretty big gap. They were running really fast at the beginning. It seemed like at the end I was able to start catching a little bit, I think. But I made a huge mistake going into Rainy, and my left leg fell off the inside of the bike and almost fell down and lost like a second. And I kind of lost my momentum there for like 2 laps, and then I found something again with like 8 to go and just started pushing really hard. And bike started really coming to me. You know, we're learning more and more on this thing as we go, but we still got a lot of work to do. So these guys rode a really good race. Congrats to Cam and Jake, and yeah, we're hungry for this third race, so I'm ready to get out there.
Thanks, Josh. Guys.
Watch out for Josh Herron if he gets a better start. It could be a 3-horse race for sure. For Cameron Beaubier, his 58th Medallia Superbike career win. Incredible to think how this young man has been putting it down since he came back to the States. Our coverage of Medallia Superbike Race 2 will continue when we get back.
Well, look at the podium where those 3 riders will be making their way up and receiving their trophies in just a couple of minutes. Let's project a little bit here. Obviously, the next race is less than 3 hours away. It's a quick turnaround. One good thing was, other than Bobby Fong, we didn't have any major offs. We saw Matt Skoltz run a little wide and the like, but no major offs. So that's good for the crews. You're not going to have a lot of people thrashing out there. But we heard Jake talking about looking for a couple of things we can change and improve. In this quick turnaround, What are you looking at in terms of making better on the bike?
Well, I think if you're Cameron Beaubier and Jake Gagne, it's just a couple tweaks here and there. You know, trying to look for a couple tenths. They get the bar set pretty high. Josh Herron, kind of the same thing. I think he's just trying to figure out what he can do early on in that race and not lose that group. But you go down to, you know, maybe Richie, Cam Peterson, and Matt. They probably might want to take a big swing at it, you know, this third race, because they're a little bit more down the order. Instead of finding a couple tenths, they need to find some more. And they could do it. I mean, we've seen them do it many times. But I think for the, you know, sometimes you don't want to make too many big changes if you're Cam and Jake Gagne, where the bike's going to be totally different.
All right.
You're right there. You know, don't try to reinvent the wheel for the third race and then go out there and you do something and you're slower.
Yeah. Over-massage the bike, so to speak, here. Richie Escalante, we were talking with Josh Hayes, and he said Richie hasn't had a lot of opportunity to practice starts here, and we saw him not get a great start and fall back into, fifth or sixth. Fought his way up and was right with Josh Herron for a while, and then when Josh pulled the trigger, Richie, couldn't quite match him here. Richie's got to figure out a way to get off the line a little bit.
Yeah, and honestly, that first lap he was 7th.
Yeah.
You know, when he came across from the front row, and you know, he's got to, whatever, I don't know if it's off the start or, you know, maybe not aggressive enough in the first, whatever it is, you know, he just has to figure that out and, you know, just makes your job a lot harder whenever you have to come from 7th. You make your job a lot easier on front row, get a good start, and, you know, he has to come through the pack. But that was Richie's last lap was a 23.8. The lap times is there, but the problem is everybody is so fast and everybody's so consistent this year. The field is so deep. 23.8 on the last lap, it gets you 4th place.
Yeah, I know. It was just that intense up front. We should also mention, of course, that we do have the Superbike Cup, and we have 2 of the competitors here this weekend. And the 71 of Gabriel Da Silva and the Steel Commander Corp Kawasaki won that sort of subcategory in the Superbike Cup with Nolan Lampkin on the BMW, bringing it home in 2nd spot in that category. And they are well placed at the top of the Superbike Cup points, so they're having their own really snug battle. And I mean, they finished 0.2 of a second apart, so that race itself was pretty spectacular. Corey Alexander, after not being able to get out for the morning warm-up, a 7th. Brandon Pash continuing his impressive performance there with an 8th place finish as well. And Hayden Gillum, after a great run in the baggers yesterday, a 9th spot. So lots to be talking about here. And the great thing is today we get one more race, and that's going to be coming up at about 3:10 p.m. local time here. With that, it's time to get back over to Greg White and Jason Pridmore to wrap up race 2.
Beautiful California coast here in Central California, Monterey Peninsula. Just down the street from WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. And getting onto the podium is Cameron Beaubier, as he gets to accept his trophy for winning race number 2 of our 5th round here, Medallia Superbike. And for Cameron Beaubier, we still have one more race to go in this one. Jason, let's take a look at those race highlights.
Yeah, I got a lot of questions going into race number 3 today, later on. So you see here, Gagne gets a good start. Beaubier took a shot at him, ran a little bit wide. Gagne got back up underneath him. You see Matthew Schultz feeling racy there at the beginning, but he would make a small mistake in turn 2. Herron would go underneath him. Beaubier said he got close a couple times, scared himself getting up the back of Jake Gagne, and you can see that here in the corkscrew. He did it a couple times in turn 5, saw it coming from Rainy Corner down to turn 10, but it was this decisive move that Tyler's BMW hooked up out of turn 11, was able to get by Gagne as they crested over the top of turn 1. From there, he'd go on and run a 23.3. Beaubier goes on and wins race number 2 here at Laguna Seca.
Wait a second, that's Max Biaggi on the podium giving away trophies. It's great to see Max Biaggi here. Carlos Checa's been here. You know a couple other guys that have been here as well. Our coverage continues when we come back to WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Max Biaggi.
Good look there at the Mission Foods start-finish bridge, dedicated earlier in the weekend, part of the big capital improvement project that's unfolding here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca under the new management. It's been at the helm for a couple of years now, and some great stuff. Let's go back now and take a look at some highlights from the first of the Medallia Superbike races. And a great start. Watch that number 45 of Cameron Peterson. Man, he just hooked up.
Yeah, got a great start and put himself in a good spot going into turn 1. But you can see as he's going to start the exit turn 2, slides out and he takes Cambobier down with him, and you can see the 2 other guys behind him did a great job missing him.
And that, of course, gave Jake Gagne an opportunity as Peterson going right over and talking to Bobier. As a result, also with Richie Escalante having a problem and not able to take the warm-up lap, had to start at the back. Gagne all alone on the front row. Got out to an early lead, and this battle was a stout one between Scholz and PJ.
Yeah, Matt and PJ were really going at it in the middle of that race, and even though they were going back and forth, you can see they were closing down the gap to Josh Herron, and then with about 3 or 4 laps ago, you see Matthew Scholz there coming through rainy curve. The rear end steps out just a little too far and wasn't able to save it. Had a big off. It was great to see him get up and walking off.
Got a ride in from Josh Herron, but it was Gagne who was able to celebrate on his cool-down lap, winning, getting some valuable points, and the guy who was closest in the championship coming after him, having that issue. And now, after the second race, where Cameron rebounds with the big win, but Gagne with that second spot, that point's now 43 at this stage, and really a two-way tie for second.
Yeah, you see the top 3 guys there have really just been the most consistent guys on the podium all year, and they just keep collecting points. And for Jake Gagne, you know, the big thing, I guess, to give up 5 points, but don't throw it down the road and give up 25.
Exactly.
And just be consistent. Don't make a huge mistake, but it's going to be hard, you know, to sit there and just play it safe all year. And he's going to want to win. He wants to beat Cambobier.
Absolutely he does, but I think he's also savvy enough to know that if he can beat him, he'll do everything he can to do it. But if Bobier just shows, okay, on this day I've got just a bit too much pace, he's not going to risk it and throw away points, is he?
And Cameron has showed incredible pace all weekend.
Yeah, he has.
Consistent and putting in a lot of laps, and so I think when you go into that, you kind of know the riders what their race pace is. You get the printouts from practice and qualifying. All the riders look at that. They see how many laps they did in a row. You kind of know somebody's race pace, and he's seen Cam could do the low 23s a lot, and so I think he kind of knew toward the end that maybe he didn't have those extra couple tenths in that race and live to fight another day, just lose 5 points and move on.
There you go, exactly. And, I mean, with a frame change after the crash yesterday, and he still does what he does today, obviously, pretty special guy. Here's what's coming up yet. We have our Mission Super Hooligan A-Main 2, if you will, race 2, 1 o'clock p.m. today, local, 4 o'clock on the East Coast. And then we move ahead to what else is going to be unfolding here. And we're going to have the Revit Twins Cup race at 2 p.m. local, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Then race 3 for the Medallia Superbikes, 3 p.m. local, 6 p.m. Eastern time, and then we wrap things up at 4 o'clock local and 7 o'clock on the East Coast with Mission King of the Baggers race 2. And every one of these races coming up here, based on what we've seen already this weekend, should be spectacular. This weather is just fantastic. The crowd loving what's unfolding. Warmest, best day so far, and we expect the racing to heat up accordingly. So looking forward to the rest of the day, but we're not quite done yet with Superbikes. Here's Greg and Jason.
Big Sur coming at you, California. Beautiful place to be this time of year. The rest of the country's baking, and we're under mid-60s, Jason. Treated to some great racing. Medallia Superbike race number 2 is done and dusted. It's in the books. But we still have race 3 coming up in just 2 hours' time. But before we get into all that stuff, I want to take a look at the points. And it's exactly how I predicted, because I have no idea how I do math. But Cameron Bobier and Josh Herron are tied 43 points back. Now, Jay, the big thing is, obviously, there are 10 races left in this season, so it's 50 points between first and second left. So Gagne can't just cruise it. He's got to go for it.
Still got to keep pushing, and we'll keep pushing. Questions for today: if Bobier gets off the line first, can he pull away? Herron needs to get a better start, because I think he can go with those guys. And Escalante, only 6.6 seconds back at the end of that race. Really impressive stuff from that team and that rider.
So that'll do it for us for Medallia Superbike race number 2, but we're going to be back in a couple hours to do it again. Medallia Superbike race 3 on deck. We can't wait to see how this pans out. Hope you enjoyed the coverage. For Hannah Lopa and Jason Pridmore, I'm Greg White. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in a couple of hours for our third race of the weekend.
Introducing the new Suzuki GSX